or shy. There will come a time when we shall laugh and smile into the sun. Our happy faces shall light the moon, and you'll know our battle is won. This world will end, so try and comprehend that no one lives forever. In the promised land, where no king will stand, we all shall be free together. The time will come we won't regret. All of nature's secrets that we get washed away by the rain. And those muddy tears will come someday.
Civilians get tortured, women get tortured, children get tortured, old men and women get tortured.
Every second day we hear a news that 2 boys were killed, 3 boys were killed, and there is an anger, among young generation.
The government wants to escalate tensions here so that it gives them a benefit in the mindsets of the people, so that they can create an image that they have beaten up Kashmiris badly and they're treating Kashmiris in a very bloody manner.
Book is life. Book is hope. And book is light for the future.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and a very warm welcome to PTV World News. I'm Shazad Qayyum with the top stories of this hour. Federal Cabinet chaired by Prime Minister Imran Khan accords approval to procure COVID-19 vaccine. Interior Minister Sheikh Rashid meets Prime Minister Imran Khan, briefs him about his Monday's visit to Quetta and meetings with the Hazara community. Corps Commanders Conference expresses complete solidarity with brave Kashmiri brethren till the realization of their just cause. Qatar's Emir Sheikh Tamim arrives in Saudi Arabia for a Gulf Arab summit that is expected to see formal agreements towards ending a dispute that has seen Riyadh and its allies boycott Qatar. Pakistan welcomes the developments. Kashmiris on both sides of the line of control and the world over observed their right to self-determination day. Senate adopts a resolution strongly condemning the prolonged detention of Chief of Duftaran-e-Millat Asya Andrabi in India's notorious Tihar jail, demands her unconditional immediate release. Independent Permanent Human Rights Commission of OIC strongly condemns the prolonged illegal and inhuman incarceration of Asya Andrabi and her two female associates in Tihar jail, India on concocted and baseless charges. President Dr. Arif Alvi and Prime Minister Imran Khan say Pakistan stands unequivocally with the Kashmiri people in their struggle for freedom from the tyranny of one of the most ruthless, inhumane and illegal occupation in modern history. Kane Williamson scores double century while Henry Nichols and Daryl Mitchell hit centuries as New Zealand declared their first innings at 6:59 for 6. In reply to Pakistan's 297 on the third day of second cricket test in Christchurch, PTV Sports telecast the match live. And defending champion Central Punjab and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa share the Quaid-e-Azam Trophy as the final cricket match in the two ends in tie. PTV Sports telecast the event live. That's all for the moment. For more details and live streaming, log on to our website world.ptv.com.pk. You can find us on Facebook page with the name of PTV World and follow us on Twitter at WorldPTV. Coming up next is Politics Today with Farrukh Pitafi. Stay tuned to watch.
Hello and welcome to Politics. Today I'm Farrukh Pitafi. Today we are taking a break from the usual politics of the country, and we are going to talk about terrorism. Why? Because day before yesterday in March, there was a sad incident of the broad daylight murder of 11 coal miners, and that was done in cold blood. People were first screened and identified or separated, and then they were killed by the terrorists. And it is important because ISIS seems to have taken responsibility of this tragic incident. The Hazara community in the country is a victim, particularly these coal miners, are a victim of a triple whammy, not double whammy, triple whammy. One, they are exceptionally poor people, and you can see their bodies in the pictures as well. They are very poor. Two, Hazara community has been targeted in the past as well, not only in this country but elsewhere in the region, because they are also present elsewhere. And the third thing, of course, is India's machinations that have continued, and we know that India is trying to reignite these fault lines by weaponizing some of the defunct or failing terrorist organizations. We are going to talk about all these matters, and then the biggest question that we have to ask right now is that we have fought many wars against terrorism. There was Azerbaijan, there was and still is Radd al-Fasad, and then there is a national action plan that the entire country agreed to. What has become of that? And how to actually take care of these terrorist organizations, whether we are succeeding even now to degrade the terrorist organizations or not. We are going to talk about all these matters and more. In order to help us understand these issues, we are joined by a very eminent panel. Yasir Janjua Sahab, a security expert, joins us in studio. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. He is joined by Sayyid Muhammad Ali Sahab, who is Director, Strategic Affairs Center for Aerospace and Security Studies, Islamabad. Thank you very much, sir. Actually, it's double Pindi, but who is locating it, right? Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. On Skype, we are joined by Abdul Basit. Abdul Basit joins us from Singapore. He is an expert on security affairs and has recently written papers on this matter as well. Thank you very much, Abdul Basit, for being part of the program as well. And then we have Umar Karim Saab, who is visiting fellow Royal United Services Institute, London. Thank you very much, Umar Saab. Thank you very much for being part of the program. Abdul Basit, let me start with you because I just read your paper and I want to understand the lay of the land and what exactly is going on at this moment. Can you identify certain nodal points that are going on?
So, vis-a-vis the Hazara attack that took place, I think such attacks have been taking place both in Afghanistan as well as in Balochistan. So it is in continuation of that attack. In terms of its modus operandi and trend, what I would like to add is that beheadings took place in Nigeria as well of rice farmers, because there Boko Haram and the affiliate of the Islamic State thought that the rice farmers were informing the Nigerian military about their presence, etc. But perhaps that has been replicated here as well, but that's just pure speculation. In terms of the overall security trend...
hang on. When you're talking about Boko Haram, are you actually comparing the two, particularly ISIS and Boko Haram? And you're talking about modalities right now, or you're generally comparing them?
No, generally in a way, because beheadings took place there and beheadings have taken place in this incident. Now the Islamic State is quite desperate because it has lost its territories in Iraq and Syria. It has suffered several setbacks. So it wanted to start this new year on a high note from the so-called twisted terrorist perspective. And these attacks are part of its campaign of battle of attrition. So I see that in continuum of that battle of attrition pattern. Coming to Pakistan's security landscape, internally I think situation has improved, notwithstanding these incidents that continue to take place every now and then, but then such incidents do happen in Europe as well. So we
Right.
can't have
And as we move forward, Abdul Basit, we are going to talk about various other aspects as well and various other actors. But let me bring in Umar Karim. Your takes on the situation. Particularly, we thought that we have degraded terrorists to a level that they will not be able to attack further. But we have seen that soft targets were attacked. What is your take on this?
I think ISIS presence in the area has been a problem for quite some long. It's actually it's not as much present in Pakistan as much as it has a foothold in Afghanistan. But the real problem is that many of the groups which have remained on the radar of our security agencies, they often form alliances or they give allegiances to groups like ISIS, and then they attack on their behalf. So it becomes a tricky business to track them. Plus, we know, I'm quite sure that the culprits who attacked the Hazaras, they are pretty much the same who have been involved in previous incidents vis-a-vis the Hazara minority. But of course, now they have joined ISIS. But the real problem
you're talking about
of,
elements like LEJ, and others, right?
Exactly. Now they have joined the umbrella of...
Right. Umar Saab, I'm going to come back to you. Let me bring in the guests who are with me in the studio, Yasir Janjua Saab. One aspect that is quite interesting, and we have been highlighting the issue of India's involvement as well. We have seen that there has been a push, and Pakistan actually released a dossier in which it was shown that Indian intelligence agencies have been trying to bring together all these disparate forces from Balochistan and also religious community. ISIS seems to be the same kind of thing in this region. Why is it that we haven't, or the world hasn't listened to this argument?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pitafi, for taking me on the program. But before I answer your question, I want to ask everyone, how do we know if it's ISIS?
Okay.
This is actually India. We must understand, we must know our enemy.
All right.
It is India. I for sure believe ISIS is just piggybacking and they are trying to take the media attention that is getting to them. They may not be involved at all.
Okay.
It is actually the Indians' design in Balochistan which is causing all this mess every now and then, because they want to prove to the world that Balochistan is not governable. And on what you were talking about, and one of the earlier participant was talking about, fault lines. Why do we want to say this is a fault line? This is not a fault line.
Okay.
India is trying to prove this is a fault line. Balochistan is not our fault line.
No, Balochistan is not, but historically we have endured a lot of Shia-Sunni terrorism, right?
Now,
so that was the bit
understood.
we were talking about.
But what I'm trying to come to is, someone is trying to give this a sectarian angle.
Yeah.
We must know our enemy. This is being given a sectarian angle by the Indians, by RAW, and by the hostile intelligence agencies, who are trying to prove or tell the world that there is a problem in Balochistan, because they want to draw the attention away from Kashmir. Actually, this is India, and Indians have openly confessed it, that they are spending millions of dollars in Balochistan.
Right, and this is my question actually that I asked you originally. A, India itself keeps on confessing. B, Pakistan has released this massive dossier which actually features all these elements as well, money trails as well.
Yes.
Why is it that the world refuses to see it?
Well, these are the realities. World does refuse to see, because India is a huge economy.
Okay.
So they have their interest. They have their vested interest. They don't want to lose India.
Yeah, but
otherwise, in the heart of their hearts, they know it, that it's India.
Janjua Sahib, a crime is a crime, regardless
Crime is
whether
a crime.
it is perpetrated by a rich person or a poor person. Let me bring in Sayyid Muhammad Ali. Your takes regarding the entire situation. And we have to talk about these organizations that existed earlier in Pakistan or in the region, Lashkar-e-Jhangvi, Umpteen others, TTP. And then we have seen a pattern that all these splinters of TTP actually clubbered together, got together, and formed ISK in Afghanistan. And ISIS and ISK are more or less the same thing. Do you see a pattern here? And as Janjua Sahib was saying, that India might be behind everything that has been mentioned.
Farrukh Sahab, I tend to agree with Yasir Sahab's assessment because the motive is quite clear and apparent on 5 accounts. Number one, today on 5th January, the Doha peace process is taking place, in which Pakistan has a very major role to bring together Kabul administration and Afghan Taliban. So one motive could be to destabilize that, to harm that, because ISIS does not have good relations with Afghan Taliban.
All right.
The second is to harm Pakistan's economic security, particularly in the context of CPEC, and present to Chinese and other potential investors that Balochistan is not a safe environment for economic investment. The third is, like Janjo Sahab also pointed out, to create an impression that there is a sectarian violence, which is not the case in Balochistan.
Why are you so confident that
I'll come to that quickly. The fourth aspect is the Middle Eastern geopolitics, which might have an extended reach here in terms of what's going on in the Middle East. But if you add these 4 trends together, the country which aims to have a motive along these lines is clearly India, because India's, according to Doval doctrine, objective is to present Pakistan internationally as an irresponsible, unstable country, which is a factor of instability in the region.
Right.
So the economic, political, all these motives are clearly hinting at that. But we must clearly emphasize that Hazara community is committed to Pakistan. It is very loyal to Pakistan. Their grievances and security concerns must be addressed. That is a responsibility of all the institutions.
Why do we need to reiterate this bit that they are committed to Pakistan? They are Pakistani citizens.
Yes,
so naturally,
absolutely.
I'm not going to have a citizenship test for these people.
No, that's absolutely true. But the thing is, the impression that is trying to be created in order to provoke them into a violent reaction has to be, the onus is obviously on government and the state that, we trust you and we assure you that your security will be taken care of, so you have no motive to do what Pakistan's adversaries want. But lastly, very importantly, some cooperation, there are signs of some cooperation between banned organizations like Lashkar-e-Jangvi and Sipahi-e-Sahaba, which are trying, because they are banned, to reorient themselves, present themselves under new name, and also claim some sort of international character by allying themselves with ISIS at a time when they do not seem to be gaining much ground in this part of the world.
But I will actually ask I will take every participant and viewer back to the presentation by the DG ISPR on November 14th, where he actually pointed out that various outfits are being brought together by Indian agencies, and they want them to work together, HUA, JUA, TTP, and then Baloch separatists and dissidents as well. So there seems to be a pattern here, right?
Absolutely.
Let me go back to Abdul Basit. Abdul Basit, one aspect that is important regarding Balochistan is that it is huge. When we are talking about territory of Pakistan, it amounts to somewhere around 44% of Pakistan's land. If you include the coastal portions as well, then it actually crosses 50%, and it is sparsely populated. In that situation, it seems that there is always a possibility that terrorists or such elements are going to exploit the some kind of vacuum of governance in certain small pockets. How to actually take care of that?
So you see, Balochistan was always strategically located, minerally very rich, and as you pointed out, sparsely or thinly populated, but it has a vast area. So with the ingress of China, or the onset of the China-Pakistan economic corridor and the US exit from Afghanistan, there is an added significance. So earlier we saw that a lot of violence, anti-state violence emanated mainly from FATA region. But now I think that character is shifting, and Balochistan is becoming the hot zone because of the geopolitical developments along with the geopolitical developments, the agendas and the goals of various non-state violent actors in this region have also changed, and they got some proxy masters in the form of India or other states as well. So I think China is the new main actor. They are now aiming in a way, whether it is the ethno-nationalist groups or whether it is the groups which are militants or have sectarian motives, or those who call themselves as the so-called global jihadists. Now, how do you take care? How do you take care of it? I think what we need is, in the current situation, we need to remap and understand the makeup or the anatomy of these groups. What are their operational goals and agendas in a changed environment? And then we have to change our security strategies accordingly. In the contemporary world,
speaking of the security strategies, let me ask you, because it is part of the Radd al-Fasad operation, right? The IBOs, the intelligence-based operations. Do you think that the topography of Balochistan allows for IBOs to ensure that all these terrorist presences might be smoked out?
You can't entirely smoke them out, but what you need is agile frameworks. Intelligence works in all kinds of terrains. What you need is a basic understanding and operationable intelligence, timely intelligence. So you see, the counter-terrorist has to be at least one, if not two steps ahead of the terrorist. And if you do so, then your ability to counter or preempt those attacks enhances. So with the fencing of Afghanistan border, there is a visible decline in terrorist attack emanating from Afghanistan. Now, the work on the Iran border is ongoing right now. 100 kilometers has been fenced, and the rest remains, around 900 or 800 kilometers remains. But that will be fenced by the end of this year. So that is going to have a visible impact on the security situation in Balochistan. Alongside that, I think revising the existing frameworks, making them more agile, and understanding the motives of these groups, locating their hideouts. I think once that has been done, I think then at least half of it. Remember, already terrorism
you keep giving me these clever answers, so it becomes very difficult for me to actually move on. But you have just mentioned two of our fencing projects, one with Afghanistan. We used to call it Deodorant Line, now it is Afghanistan-Pakistan border. The other one is called Goldsmith Line, that is Iran-Pakistan border. Which is the direction of the incursion at this moment? Which one is it? Is it Afghanistan or Iran?
It's both. So the Baloch insurgents are coming from Iran as well as Afghanistan. TTP and Daesh have their hideouts in northeastern and eastern Afghanistan.
Right.
And,
okay. So one of my guests actually gave me this look. He doesn't agree. I'm going to go to him later. But let me ask Umar Karim. At this moment, even as we speak, the Hazara community has refused to bury their dead, and they're protesting. The Interior Minister actually reached out to them, went to Quetta, and still there hasn't been any development or any progress. What will it take for the government of Pakistan to ensure that Hazara community feels safe in Pakistan?
I think in order for them to feel safe and secure within Pakistan, and more importantly, to have confidence within the law enforcement agencies of Pakistan, there needs to be some visible action. But as Basit Sahab said, that these actions can give you some brownie points or some visible positive images, but if the deep underground problem has not been addressed, then it won't matter at all. So for the Hazara community, I
understand. I respect your using brownie points as a term here, but my concern right now is that we have to win the hearts and minds as well, right? And if a community is repeatedly targeted, one has to come up with something new. So what exactly is that something new that we might be able to do right now?
I think the law enforcement agencies, they need to see what was going on positively before, and what is the lapse right now? Because we didn't see any specific major or such a attack of sectarian nature for, let's say, 2 or 3 years, and now suddenly this has happened. And I think what will address on a broader scale is some improvement in the governance situation as well, and also we know, we have seen the Interior Minister, he has gone to the Hazara community, he has met them. Of course, the officials of Balochistan government are also going.
Right. Right,
but
absolutely,
maybe,
sir.
some sort of alignment committee which comprises of the.
Okay, okay. I get the gist. Let me go back to Yasir Janjua. Sir, remember those days after APS Peshawar incident, we actually came together, the entire country, and agreed on a 20-point national action plan. In it, there was specific focus on Balochistan as well. Do you think that national action plan is being implemented the way it was envisaged, or we still have to do a lot more?
I think there are shortcomings in the implementation of the entire National Action Plan.
Okay.
And that's one of the reasons you find there are gaps. However, I must say, I was in a program last night as well where I was with the 2 Baloch politicians based in Quetta. And they were all blaming the Pakistani army and the intelligence organizations. Look, intelligence-based organizations or full-scale operations like Zarb-e-Azb, they do a lot of mending the fences. However, we all need to understand, we have an enemy within. Forget about worrying about who's coming from the Afghan or the Iran border side. Yes, there are some incursions, but there are people within. Those are being given the money by Indians who are sitting in Quetta and elsewhere. They are getting up from within Balochistan and doing these attacks. So what we need to do is, as a society, we need to have a paradigm shift in the way we live our lives. For example, and there is some responsibility for the government, for the provincial government and for the federal government. Why can't they ensure that the coal mine owners make sure that their staff are secure? They are making all the money and leaving their people at the mercy of those killers. Army and police cannot be at the doorstep of every mine.
Right, and you said something that I have not been able to shake, right? And you said that yesterday you were in a program where 2 Baloch politicians were blaming of all the things the security forces of the country. I'm sorry, why do you think that they are blaming anybody at all rather than the terrorists?
This is because they are doing politics. Look, even after I've been doing programs on APS attack as well, and I was talking to one of the senior journalists, I don't want to take his name here. He was also putting the blame on of the APS attack on army. And I said to him, Pakistan army cannot be stationed on every school door. We have to take a responsibility of correcting ourselves.
Yeah, but that was because that came unprompted. My concern is that we, in politics, naturally people keep on blaming everything that moves.
That's the easiest thing. Army is the easiest target.
But army keeps on sacrificing every single day. And even then, if there are people who keep on blaming institutions, they actually are undercutting their own, rationality. Allow me to actually bring back Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali Saab, since earlier I was talking about the direction of the incursions. And the answer came that it might be coming from both sides, Afghanistan and Iran. You shook your head very aggressively. So I first want you to actually engage on that point, then I can ask another question.
Sure. Actually, the incursion or whatever kinetic action took place needs to be seen in the geopolitical context. Because at a time when the world order is changing, Pakistan, China, Iran, Turkey, these countries are trying to improve their mutual relationships. And at this time, we are trying at the highest level to achieve a thaw with Tehran. And Army Chief has also visited Iran. And we are trying to improve our relations and address mutual concerns. So, although, like Janjua Sahab also pointed out, the main cause, the main instigator is raw, they have deployed
via Afghanistan.
Via Afghanistan, because BLA and other outfits have been operating from under the oversight and support and consent of the Kabul administration, and that is because
once again, November 14th, the DGISPR and the Foreign Minister say that these three organizations have been brought together, BRA, BLA and BLO. They have been clubbed together, and now it is called BRAS. And it is sponsored by India.
So on one side you see a trend, like you rightly pointed out, that an insurgency is trying, an insurgency-based coalition is being developed by RAW of ethnic character, and that needs to be reinforced through an ideological motivation which they are trying to create, which is not there. The weakness of the false narrative of Balochistan insurgency, which is not there, because there is no issue there. It is being propped, promoted, pushed by RAW. Because let me just briefly comment on what Yasir Saab also pointed out. I think Pakistan Army is important. It has a limited, very critical kinetic capability, but the strategy has to be non-kinetic. Understand? In counter-terrorism operation, the strategy has to be non-kinetic. The space.
Why did you say very limited capacity?
No, I did not say limited capacity. I said it has a limited but very critical role.
I just keep on asking you to clarify what you said.
Allow me to add.
Because military is
limited.
Yeah.
No army is limitless. Even the US Army is not limitless.
But there are limits for you can't protect 220 million people at their doors. What the strategy has to be to reduce the psychological and social space for these elements, and the onus for that lies with the political leadership.
Absolutely. And follow up to that. You said Afghanistan is being used against Pakistan, right? Since Pakistan and Afghanistan worked out this framework called APAPS, we actually don't raise it at the government level in the media, but we keep on asking the other side through these channels. Do you think that Pakistan will be asking Afghan government to do more regarding this aspect?
We have been asking, we must ask. And actually, let me say on your show that there is no evidence that this action took place with the consent of the Afghan leadership. It could be a non-state actor. It could be a low-level operation which has their own interest in mind, because with the success of the Afghan peace process, the low-level intelligence operatives are threatened about the prospect of their job security. Because if the peace process succeeds and the Kabul administration concedes the political space to Afghan Taliban and peace is actually achieved, who is going to lose? India and those intelligence organizations which have been involved in sponsoring and supporting terrorism inside Pakistan.
Right. Abdul Basit, earlier I was talking about the modalities and the functioning of terrorist organizations. Let me ask you about the dossier that Pakistan has released. In that we see one particular money wire transfer from India, actually Punjab National Bank of India, and to Afghan elements that included certain Baloch dissidents as well. And then there is this impression that these organizations like Daesh are also being financed by India in Afghanistan. The question is because earlier, even before this dossier, we had seen FinCEN's report that was leaked. In that also, this is one of the banks that actually have been accused of financing terrorism. How sure are we that India might be behind these, attacks, and how effective a case we can build through all these pieces to convince the world and expose what India is doing right now?
So the dossier has been presented, right? It was, I think, presented at various multilateral forums, including the UN. Some of those pieces of evidence in the form of audio clips and those receipts were also shown. So I think that is quite clearly established. Can we do that in every single attack? That might be a little difficult, but generally, if it is established that it is India which is trying to stoke instability in Balochistan particularly, then that is fairly established, I believe. But then for each particular attack, that is a little difficult in my opinion. But what's the broader point? The broader point is that there are lapses in security as well. So let's just admit that. And quite frankly and very humbly disagreeing with some of the participants here, I mean, come on, there is a problem in Balochistan. Saying that there is no problem and it's only raw created, I would humbly disagree there. There is a problem in Balochistan.
No, I totally get what you're saying, sir, and I respect what you're saying. My concern right now is that how many smoking guns do we need to actually tell it to the world that India is behind these terrorist organizations and attacks. In Karachi also, the Chinese, consulate is attacked. We intercept communication between Afghanistan elements and these elements, the terrorists, and that all actually connects with India. And now again, when you look at how Daesh in Afghanistan is operating, there seems to be a clear interest or a commonality of interest between Daesh and the Afghan government, actually Indian government, let me correct myself, Indian government and Daesh to sabotage the peace process in Afghanistan.
So the point is, if we have all the intelligence and we are getting intercepts, then the larger question is, why are we not able to stop the attacks? The attacks still took place. If all the evidence was known, what were the security forces doing? But Balochistan is a heavily militarized area.
No,
so
but again, Basit Saab, with due respect, I hope you have been studying how intelligence works. Usually you get all the forensic evidence and then trace it back to people, right?
My point, sir. Let me complete my point. So the thing is, there are gaps here in the security. Before going to the world, we need to look into our security frameworks and the strategies that we are having. There are clearly some gaps here and we need to fill those gaps. And whatever new intelligence is coming out about the Indian involvement, we should take that to the world. Is the world going to believe us? Whether the world believes us or not, if there is truth to it and there is evidence as we have shown, whether the world agrees to it or not, that is there for the record and we put it on the record.
Right, and that's a good point. Let me bring back Umar Karim. Umar Karim, why is it, actually not why is it, do you think that the world is going to listen to all these, discussions, and particularly when it comes to these evidences, is the world going to pay heed, sir?
Let me actually give you an interesting story in response to this. I was sitting with a US diplomat and an independent researcher who has been working in Afghanistan for like 20-25 years. And the independent researcher, not a Pakistani supporter or in no case at all, he openly said that the DTP is working alongside ISIS in Afghanistan and they are being funded by Indian intelligence agency. And it's quite clear that this is happening. And the Indians are giving them funding to attack, to launch attacks within Pakistan. And the US diplomat was clearly listening, but what is the result? The other point which I would try to make is that if India is funding different groups, let's say Baloch groups, and the target is to sabotage CPAC, then if CPAC is being attacked or damaged or its development is hampered, it actually favors those in the West who don't really want CPAC to be developed to such an extent. So the Western audience, to be honest, is quite clear in terms of its knowledge of what is going on, where it is going on. I think we need to be clear ourselves now. We know the ICE people, they are coming from Afghanistan. I think the fencing of the border will really solve this issue to quite a large extent. And the Baloch insurgents or terrorists, they are coming from Iran. We know there was
hang on. Earlier, you just mentioned that the Americans and the foreign diplomats might be in the know of such nefarious activities that are going on. with due respect, is it not a self-defeating argument? Then you actually, give up the initiative you have got. If you have got evidence, why not use it and keep on exposing India?
Yeah, I think that's the right course of action. We need to show it more and more to the world, and actually we need to link up such evidence with incidents where maybe Westerners were targeted or Western citizens were injured or killed. Because when it's their own blood in the mix, then they will be really sensitive. But otherwise, if Pakistanis are dying, to be honest, or Afghans are dying, why do they care?
Right. Human beings are human beings. With due respect, it is a Western democracy that brought the idea of human rights to us. Many of us didn't invent it in a lab here. So let us not actually imply that nobody actually cares if a foreigner is not killed. Let me go back to Yasir Janjua Saab. You have seen the challenges we have vis-a-vis National Action Plan. Then India, a country like India that has an active interest in destroying peace in Pakistan. And finally, when you look at the global trends, how desperate Daesh is as well. So what exactly should be the single point strategy? Do we need a National Action Plan 2.0 to actually take care of these matters, or something else?
No, we don't need the National Action Plan 2.0.
Okay.
All we need is all parties across the political divide to be on the same page.
Okay.
They should stop playing politics.
Will that happen?
Unfortunately, not in the near foreseeable future, unless people of Pakistan throw them out, and this is likely to happen. With this electoral process continuing over the years and years, you will see thinning out and mainstream parties remaining. But in the case of Balochistan, I'm afraid that's not going to happen.
Right.
And that's where the problem is. I have just one comment to make. I beg to disagree with Abdul Basit when he says, no, there is a problem in Balochistan. The problem, we are not saying there is nothing wrong there. There are things wrong, but they are being artificially created. I have worked and served in Balochistan for a very long time when I was in the army, and I still have very, very deep roots of friends and relatives living in Balochistan. Majority of Baloch are very patriotic.
Okay.
These dissidents that you're talking about are countable on fingertips. They are in the hiding. The only problem is we need to identify them. I, being a security consultant myself, I'm telling you, we need to change the way we live our lives. We should know who's our next door neighbor.
Right.
Because he's waking up in the morning from the next door house, going and killing somebody. So we should know if there is a man who's a mysterious kind of a character living in our neighborhood, we should be reporting it.
Right.
Everybody has a responsibility. Police have a responsibility, but the citizen
regarding what you said about the political, brass and political parties actually getting together, and then you also conceded that they are not going to, and then we have to punish them through the electoral process. The problem is that electoral process takes at least 5 years for you to sift through the various options you have. And people, those 10 people, 11 people who died now. And we cannot wait for 5 years to actually take care of that.
So that is where the government needs to enforce the rules and laws. There are laws already there. There are laws, as I said in my earlier talk, that they should make sure that the owners of the coal mines or people in the neighborhoods are responsible, that they take care of the people, and then the police is made responsible. Obviously, police cannot be everywhere on every inch of Balochistan. So there has to be, there is a concept of citizen policing. There is a concept of community policing. We have to gather ourselves, because with limited resources, as he was also saying, it's not that our Pakistan army does not have the capacity, but there is a limit to the capacity.
Right.
Pakistan army is fighting on the western border and the eastern border, and something which was not originally its responsibility, the internal security. Now it's doing that as well.
We keep on talking about army. There are other forces like paramilitary forces also. FC is there. Others are there as well. Regarding something you said earlier, you said that most of Baloch are actually patriotic. Just a quick reminder that you are talking to one. Right, and one doesn't need to actually qualify that who is patriotic or not, but I think that there will always be elements that can be exploited by the foreign forces. Let me...
I'm sorry, there are unpatriotic people in Punjab as well. So, bad people are everywhere. So, generally, Baloch people are very loyal to the country, and they have done great sacrifices.
A criminal is a criminal, and let us not actually judge them by ethnicity.
Yes.
Sayyid Muhammad Ali, regarding this situation, the same question: do we need a National Action Plan 2.0, or then we need a new mandate for the Operation Raddul Fasad, where we can actually expand the scope of IBOs, intelligence-based operations, and then we can take the war to the enemy.
First of all, the strategic environment keeps evolving,
right?
And I think any policy or plan is not carved in stone. So there is no harm in reviewing it to suit in accordance with the changing environment.
Right.
There are 4 aspects which need to be simultaneously taken care of quickly. At the geopolitical level, I think it is very important what India is trying to do. We should understand that they want to isolate us regionally and destabilize us internally and exhaust us militarily. That's why they are trying desperately to create instability in the country, so that army and our law enforcement agencies are focused internally rather than on Kashmir, rather than on LOC.
Right.
That is what their plan is. So all the more reason that at the political level, all the parties should work together. There should be maybe a conference in Quetta involving all the political parties, all the political stakeholders. They should commit themselves to peaceful negotiations and to Pakistan and to eradicate these elements.
Right.
At the economic level, I think the Chinese also need to be told that the Indians are trying to harm their interests. Right. So when CPEC is being hit, it is not just Pakistan. The economic interest of China is also being hit.
Right.
So they should raise it at the highest level internationally and with India. At the military level, like I said, strategically, it should be a non-kinetic approach. The grievances should be addressed politically, economically, socially, so that the environment isolates and identifies those individuals who are trying to create a bad image for Pakistan internationally. And lastly, the kinetic element should only be the icing on the top to individually identify and create a social defense against all miscreants.
Right, sir. I'm told that we have to actually conclude the program. Thank you very much for your participation and valuable input. Let me also thank Yasir Janjua sahab. Thank you very much for your precious time as well. Abdul Basit, thank you very much.